Welcome, everybody. It is so cool to be with you tonight, and so cool to be with you. I love doing this stuff with you.
I always honor and cherish the time we spent together.
So thank you. Thank you for doing this with me and for sharing it with everybody who's with us from around the world. It's really cool. So for those of you who know us, we are very informal and very casual people. So questions and comments are absolutely wonderfully welcome. And at the end of this, we will have more time to talk and answer questions. We're really happy to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Jonty Searle. I'm a conscious sexuality practitioner. I live in Johannesburg in South Africa.
I'm Tamar, and thanks to Jonty, honest truth, my life opened to the pleasure possibilities, changed my life completely. I got so inspired that recently I just opened a platform. Jonty has a course there called The Pleasure Journey, that is to teach women about the capabilities and the possibility of pleasure.
So let us begin with getting a little bit more into our body. So please close your eyes if you are comfortable to do that. And put a hand or your hands on your heart center in the middle of your chest. And take a breath in, a slow, deep breath in. And have the awareness that as you're breathing in, you're breathing into your heart center. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out from your heart center. Slow, deep breaths into your heart. And slowly out. Each breath, allow yourself to sink into your heart. Into that space, deep in the middle of your body, behind your breastbone. And become aware of texture of your heart. And become aware of the weight of your heart. And maybe there's a color in your heart, whatever that might be. And with your next inhale, your next in-breath, breathe in through your heart and let that breath go all the way down through the middle of your body to your genitals, to your sexual center. So you're breathing into your genitals. And as you breathe out, feel your genitals relaxing and softening. Relaxing and softening. Breathing into your heart. To your delicious genitals. And as you breathe out, softening and relaxing. Connecting your heart and your sexual center. And be aware of the sensation in your body, sensation in your belly, sensation in your genitals. Whatever you feel. And let your next in-breath be a little deeper. A little deeper. And your next exhale, a little bit longer. So your next inhale is a little deeper, a little longer. And your exhale is a little deeper, a little longer. And now take a deep, deep breath in. Slowly, slowly breathe out and slowly open your eyes. Beautiful. And you've learned the first self-pleasuring practice for the night.
You know what happened to me now? And every time I'm just amazed that this is what happens when you just take a moment of consciousness. Your genitals starts being. They are a part of your body and you are aware of them, of it. You start feeling, and all of a sudden it can be a pain or an itch or just a relaxing sensation or a flow of blood. And all of a sudden it's a part of you.
Yeah, that's so important. So as soon as we are breathing, we're more present in our bodies. And when we're focusing on our breath, we are more present in our bodies. And when we connect that breath to the heart, we're connecting it to our heart center, to the seat of love in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And during self-pleasuring, if you focus on breathing into your heart and breathing out of your heart, immediately it's going to be a very different experience.
And there's a connection.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about the connection between the heart and the genital and this flow of energy that goes through our body. And that's an amazing way of starting to see, where are we blocked? Are we getting stuck here? Is the energy like something gets stuck in our stomach? Or maybe there's a huge, you feel more intensity perhaps here. So it's a wonderful way of seeing how the energy flows.
Absolutely. And just that alone, by focusing on your heart center during self-pleasuring, is going to make it such a different experience. You have such a deeper connection with yourself, and you're so much more present with yourself. And it really changes the experience so much.
So maybe we can also start from, why is it not sexy masturbation session? Why is it conscious self-pleasuring?
That's a really good place to start. Okay. So let's start that with a question. Why do you masturbate? So generally, why do we masturbate? To have an orgasm.
Sure.
Okay, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
In whatever way it is that you're going to do it, that's what it's all about. Now, that is fantastic. There is nothing wrong with that. And as I wrote in the introductory piece to this, having a good wank and a good orgasm is sometimes amazing, and sometimes it's exactly what we need. Whether you're going to go and have a sleep afterwards, whether you're going to go out afterwards, doesn't matter. It's fantastic. Okay. Pleasure is different. And one of the biggest things is that masturbation is very much about the goal.
Yeah.
And the goal is the orgasm. And we've said it before, so we are not saying again, orgasms are fabulous, they're wonderful, everything about them.
It's a little asterisk in the bottom.
That's it.
Orgasms, great, super.
That's not all that there is. Yeah. And when we are focusing just on the goal, we get stuck. And we get stuck in, that's what, in doing whatever we have to do to get to that orgasm. Whatever the thoughts, the fantasies, or if we're watching porn or we're reading something, whatever stimulation we have to get to that point. So it's about that goal. It's not always about being present.
Yeah, and the goal is also packed with patterns. So we know how we get there. We do the same thing. We can even get frustrated if we don't get the result.
Absolutely. And I've been writing a couple of pieces lately on sexual boredom. So I've been working with some people who've come to see me, some couples who they've been together for quite a long time, and some not for such a long time, who are sexually bored.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about often masturbating, we can get bored as well.
Yeah.
Because as you said, we do exactly the same thing, the same way. Whether we are using our right hand, our left hand, both hands, a toy, whatever porn we watch, and we do the same thing.
We keep safe. It's a safety mechanism.
Yeah, it's a pattern. It works, it doesn't work, it's whatever it is. When we start getting away from that idea, we start understanding that, firstly, the realm of pleasure is limitless. And we talk about this lots.
It's a very foreign concept for some people. For me, it was a foreign concept before I met the conscious sexuality world and you. It's pleasure, possibility. It's like, yeah, I know orgasms are great. And I even, I had once an hour play. It was amazing. But I think it's not clear enough that there is really endless possibility. It's really, this world is endless.
Yeah. Even last week, I did a rope workshop.
Yeah.
That a friend of mine in Australia offered. And it was a very non-traditional workshop. It wasn't about tying, it wasn't about knots, it wasn't about the ritual of that. It was very free-flowing, and it was about using rope as an element of sensuality. Now, I love to play in the bondage world, but rope has never been of major interest to me, other than kind of tying someone up a little bit. And this opened a whole new world of possibility. And after I had an amazing experience with myself and the rope, and it was incredibly sensual. So that's a good part of this, because the goal of sex is orgasm on your own with a partner. Okay? That's very genitally oriented, and masturbation is very genitally oriented. Okay? When we start getting into the bigger picture of sensuality and pleasure, that includes the whole of our bodies, from the top of our head, soles of our feet, tips of our fingers, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And then we start understanding that this whole body is the most amazing canvas of endless and limitless pleasure possibilities.
Yeah, it made me feel just focused for a second of this thing of making time. Making time, because what you're expressing is actually an exploration act. So it's really, we had the last webinar about creativity, and that's one of the things that when you don't masturbate, but you are in this creative space of self-pleasuring, you are really on a journey of discovering new things, and it can be something completely different because, as you said, you don't limit it in the goal.
And different parts of your body wake up. Things that were never sensitive before, all of a sudden start to become.
And that's possible. That's a good point. I thought as a woman that it's not possible, that if I have some numbness or pain, or even that there's some, who teaches us about self-pleasuring? No one, and not about sex. So if you start practicing, things wake up.
Yeah. And what you said there, Tamar, is really important, because when we engage with self-pleasuring, there's a really powerful healing aspect in a lot of the practices. So when you talk about numbness and pain, a lot of the self-pleasuring helps release that, helps open that. It creates a relationship with your body and a relationship with your genitals. It's very different. So very often the relationship that we have with our genitals is at best functional. So functional is we're concerned that everything works. And I say at best, because there's an enormous judgment on our genitals, for men and women.
Sure.
The way they look, the way they smell, the way they taste, the way that they work or don't work. So all that we're really concerned with is that everything works.
And if it doesn't, oh my God.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then women have all of the stuff from the media, all the bullshit about the way that you should look, the way that you only should smell and taste. And absolutely the same thing. For men, the biggest one is size.
Yeah, size or erect or not.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how big it is never big enough. And that creates an incredible disconnect from ourselves and from pleasure. So when you start to explore your body, your whole body, so much healing happens in that by connecting to yourself. And what you said there is really important, that your genitals become a part of you, that for so many of us, they're separate. It's like we take them out in very specific circumstances, we use them, and then we put them away again. But they are part of this whole, and your skin is one continuous skin throughout your body.
Yeah. And everywhere, from the toes to the back of your neck to your belly, every piece, every part can be interesting, can be new, can be arousing. For me, one of the biggest things in arousal is new, something new, or it's surprising, not something I can predict.
Yeah. So
doing self-exploration and self-pleasuring is a wonderful act of surprising yourself. And I'll take even one step further with what you said just now regarding the expectations and regarding that pressure. And if it's looking in a certain way, or if we are tasting in a certain way, or whatever, then that pressure, actually self-pleasuring, can help with relieving stress and pressure from performance. Because, York and myself, my partner and I, when we came to you, and we still come to you because it's an ongoing thing, right? You want to go forever for guidance around sexuality and pleasure. And recently, you shared with us this whole, it really opened up our minds when it came to, I don't know, understanding that what we do when it comes to sex is awesome. But then there's already 2 or 3 or 4 parties involved, depends how many. And that means you need to consider the other person. There's 2 energies in the room. When you self-pleasure, you can be immersed in your own exploration. That's huge.
And it becomes an immersion. So it can be almost like a meditation of being with yourself. So let's share another practice with you of how you can start exploring your body.
Okay.
So this is called sensual hands dancing. And it's a beautiful practice. I've been doing it and teaching it for so long, and I still do it because it's such a beautiful practice. And as my body changes and other things wake up, like I'm doing a lot of yoga at the moment. So some things are waking up in ways that they've never have before, which is really interesting. And to touch them in a way that it feels like I've never touched them before.
You touch differently?
Yeah, because they feel different. So that's really amazing.
And you do the practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bring your hands up like this. So just your fingertips are touching. So you've got to have soft hands. So take a breath in, deep breath in. And as you breathe out, let your fingers and your palms relax. Just let them be as soft as they can. And then really slowly, really gently begin to touch your fingers and your palm. And the back of your hand. And your knuckles. And the spaces between your fingers. Really slowly, really gently. So the slower that you go, the more you'll feel. And the slower that you go, the more you'll be out your mind, in your body, in the feeling. It's deliciousness. I love it. And it's so subtle. And that's where so much of the power is. So you can extend that into your whole body, to your face, your arms, your chest, your belly, your legs, absolutely everywhere. So you can do that for 5 minutes, you can do it for 10 minutes, you can do it for half an hour. You can create a beautiful space, light some candles, put some music on, and just get lost in your body. It's like you begin to make love with yourself. So just for a moment, type in the chat box. It would be really cool to hear what you felt just from a few minutes of doing that. It would be really, really cool. What did you feel?
I felt in the beginning the coldness of my hands, and then I started feeling like a little bit of a vibration, like in my interpretation of energy. So, and I was surprised from every side, every little place, little piece of skin, that it's really not the way I thought it's going to feel. I thought, it's just 2 hands when we're doing set in front of the camera, but a lot of sensations started emerging, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
It was just like, more.
Yeah. I found this here is opening up amazingly, like the bottom of my fingers.
It is
so much more sensitive than it's ever been.
Oh, that's very deep, high level of consciousness that you know that in this area, it's the most sensitive.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Kathy's son says she had it was very nice and tingling, very sensual and pleasant.
Cool.
Artie Shaw says lots of tingling and very enjoyable sensations.
Cool, thank you. So expand that, and it becomes a beautiful, beautiful and powerful meditation.
Imagine touching your genitals in a self-pleasuring ceremony or practice that you just touch like that. I know a lot of women share with you and with me that, you know, usually the touch in the genitalia, or the female yoni, which is the Sanskrit word for vagina, so sacred space. You can say it, Trucy, but I'm not sure, is everybody okay with me? So, you know, when you touch your genitals, and you touch ever so gently and with such grace and such sacredness, I think your yoni or your lingam, you know, your cock or your pussy will start talking back to you.
Yeah. And the interesting thing for a lot of men is because men are used to touching themselves hard and fast, because the goal is orgasm. Sure. So I need to do that like as quickly as I can to get there, because that's what I want to do. And I do that quite hard. Then when a man is touched or touches himself really gently, very often there isn't a lot of feeling. There's not a lot of sensation. So the more time that you spend doing that, the more that sensation will awaken. So patience is important there.
2 more comments. Sudeshna. My mind was still racing for moments in between. I got to feel chills in my body. And Jacqueline says, I've noticed that I'm such a fast-paced everything. Slowing down doesn't come naturally, but doing this practice I felt so much sensation, especially in my fingers. And John says, essential, going between my fingers, touching and feeling my hand, and my hand touching and feeling my fingers.
Beautiful. Yeah. And this is where it becomes pleasure. And the other day, working with someone who's been on a deep healing journey, a woman, and for the first time, she said, now she's starting to understand the difference between orgasm and pleasure. And what you guys have shared, this is about pleasure. And that is so different.
And Jacqueline, what you shared is, I relate to that. And I think we live in a society, most parts of the world, that we just don't make time and we just, everything. What do I gain from this? So another question that comes in my mind often is, why should I go in self-pleasure? You know, like, what is the end result? You know, at least in sex, you say, okay, I'm going to get an orgasm. I kind of know what's happening. And I think it's so important to understand that the sake of pleasure, it's a goal it's not a goal, it's a journey by itself. And it takes time to persuade our brains.
And Julian says, as a guy in a couple setting, I find it easy to take it slow because that's what I like. Doing that to myself is a new experience and realization that I can feel that too.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's about learning to love and to make love with ourselves. You know, one of my teachers, a traditional Tantra teacher, says that most of our issues in life exist because of 2 things. The first one is that we weren't taught clear boundaries. And the second one is that we weren't taught to love ourselves. And that's a huge journey, the journey of self-love. You know, it's one of the real purposes of the journey of spirituality. But learning to love our own body is so amazing because this is our home. This is where we live.
It really touches my heart what you say now.
And this is us. You know, we're not our body, we're not our mind, we're a whole lot more. But this is our home for this earth journey, for this life. And to really learn to love it, to cherish it, to really nurture this it's such a beautiful journey into awareness and consciousness.
We just spoke about it before the webinar, that in Tantra, maybe you can explain better, that you basically, the love for yourself is reflected in a partner or a lover that you find. So all the love that you have and all the pleasure that you have with yourself, eventually you'll have boyfriends or wives or partners, lovers. It's actually the love to yourself. So it's projected like that.
So when we really get that, we understand that we love, and we are beings of love. And the more that we understand that, and the more that we live a life of love, that we're living more from the heart, then we are the lovers. And life, and we make love with life. And every single person then is an opportunity for us to express and share that love. And then the love is not so much just about you, whoever the you may be, but it's I am this being of love. And to share that with you is a beautiful expression.
Thank you. It's very profound.
I like it too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes us into the understanding that these self-pleasuring experiences can be experiences of deep energy and actually a pathway into a spiritual journey. And that's very removed from the masturbation idea.
Yeah, it is.
So they become very different experiences. So the first thing in this says, carry on.
No. I just said that once it starts to be that, then it's really it becomes a real presence. It's a present experience, that so much is possible there if it's from different rhythms, and there's just so much to explore once you look at it like that.
And it literally becomes endless. So a lot of these experiences, I think, begin with the intention.
Okay.
So if the intention is to have an orgasm, that's what it's going to be. Then you can even think, so what kind of orgasm do I want to have? That becomes something quite different. But if the intention is to experience intimacy with yourself, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do to make that happen? If your intention is to experience sexual energy, what are you going to do to make that happen? So that becomes quite important, because that kind of sets the space of what is it that you want from the experience, where you're going with it.
Yeah, there's so many levels of intensity of pleasure. So there's, if it's more intense or more soft and gentle, and that's exactly the point. If I want to just feel intimacy with myself and to have soft exploration, then I won't aim to, do a lot of maybe very intense breathing work, and quite I will direct my energy to stay more in the gentle waves of the experience.
Yeah, perhaps. So let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the practices that I teach, it was one of the first workshops that I started teaching, so it's quite sentimental for me, called Expanded Energy Orgasm. And it's an incredible practice and experience. And you can do it on your own. And it's such an experience of sexual energy in your body. Okay, so a good analogy for an orgasm is like a wave in the ocean. It starts as a little swell, it gathers speed and power, and eventually the wave breaks. If you're riding the wave, once the wave has broken, the ride's over. And to catch the next wave, you have to swim out through the breakers and wait for the perfect wave, whatever that might be. Okay. Imagine that you're riding the wave, and instead of waiting for the wave to break, you jump onto the wave behind that, and the wave behind that, and the wave behind that. And you can do that for as long as you like, or as long as you can.
Some people call it edging, but that's not edging.
No, this is different, because when I explain it, you'll see what's different. Okay. So there are elements of this that make it very different, and that make it more of an energy experience. So it's more about the energy than the physicality. So edging is a very physical experience.
Yeah, it's almost climaxing and stuff.
How close can you get?
Okay.
This is a very different experience. Okay. So imagine that from naught to an orgasm is 100%. Okay. So we are not going to go anywhere near more than about 70%. And if it's a little bit more, a little bit less, it doesn't matter. Now, don't get hung up on the number of the detail. Okay. Now, on one hand, there is amazing subtlety and nuance of this experience. And on the other hand, it's actually quite simple. But all great things, there's a level of simplicity. So here's what you're going to do. Go and touch yourself. You're going to build some energy up. And imagine that you're going to get to about 70%. Okay?
That's where you really start feeling aroused, but you're not thinking you're not going to be able to stop
So
yourself.
you're not in that fire zone.
Yeah.
Okay? And if it's 60%, it's fine. If it's 30%, fine too. Don't get hung up on the numbers. Build some sexual energy in your body. Stop touching. Stop moving. Breathe. 5 really deep breaths and relax your whole body, especially your genitals and your pelvic floor muscles. Okay. So as you relax everything, all the energy can move through your body. So for most people, sex is a very contracted, that's it. So when you get close to orgasm, muscles get tight, your breathing gets quick, you go, then you have this big explosion and you scream or shout, or if you're the quiet type, you just go, ooh, that was nice, and that's all. Okay.
If you know where it is in the world, if you are from that part of the world, you're more than welcome to tell us.
Okay, so when everything's contracted, all the energy in your genitals can't move.
Naturally.
It just
makes
gets
sense, yeah.
because it can't flow.
Even the blood can't move, you know, you're thinking about all this,
that's it.
all this massive contraction.
So as soon as you relax, energy can move through your body. Then your breath actually serves to move the energy through your body. So the deeper that you breathe, the more the energy will move through your body. So the breath becomes like the way to take you up the face of the next life. And for the waves to spread through your body. And then you're going to touch more, play, build up some more energy, stop, breathe, relax. And if you do that 5 or 6 times, it's going to be a really beautiful, interesting, delicious, fascinating experience.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good time to talk about breath. As a woman, I felt quite stupid actually to start doing breath exercises, and it is remarkable. It is actually a game changer when you talk about breath. The fact to deepen your breath, to make the sounds of your breath, and to really focus on the breath. It helps to take you away from the mind, because the mind goes to all kinds of places. I still feel many times silly when I do it, especially if it's in a play. But if it's self-pleasuring, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to start practicing that. It helps tremendously. Really, really does make a big difference.
So breath and sound are energy. We'll talk more about that.
Is this different from breath play?
Yes. I'll explain a little bit about that. Okay. So after you've done this 5 or 6 times, then lie still for a minimum of 10 minutes. Don't move, don't talk, don't touch. Just lie there and feel everything that's happening in your body. Feel the emotions, get rid of the thought. Just be with what is. And after that, if you want to have a contracted orgasm, do it. Or just leave all the delicious energy in your body.
Absolutely. To give the benefit.
Because you know what happens with all of that energy? It starts to become like a sexual meditation. Yeah. And you start to have access to more creative energy.
Yeah, it's totally normal also to feel high. So, you know, to start practicing different pleasure conscious states is a wonderful opportunity when you do it by yourself. And if you manage to break the pattern and you manage to actually take yourself into that process, it's really okay if you're going to have a feeling of literally like you maybe, you know.
Somebody said
like
that to me.
You took like a happy pill, you know?
Yeah. Somebody I taught this to recently came for another lesson.
Yeah.
And she said that she actually felt like she'd had a psilocybin mushroom journey after this experience.
Yeah, I feel often totally high. Now, we feel it sometimes after a good fuck. We do, but it's a certain period of time that the body, you know, opens up to pleasure. Yeah.
And that's where sound comes in as well, because sound is energy. So do you know who doesn't make noise during sex?
Men.
Men.
You do, you don't, you really don't.
So like sometimes you don't even know if he's had an orgasm, because all that happens is he goes, and you're like, is he choking? Is like what's happening?
No hard feelings, really.
So guys,
just a pledge.
You've got to learn to really
we also get super turned on by hearing.
Because when your partner hears that, she knows that you're there and she knows that you're turned on and aroused.
Which you're now making me think about self-pleasuring next to your partner, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So self-pleasuring for men is a fabulous way to start exploring and feeling that energy. And all that you have to do is make noise. It doesn't matter what noise. You can growl. You can make it this real fire experience. Really get into
it. I wouldn't. I don't know about that, but I'll get used to it, but try. You know, when you talk about breath and sound, I think it's a wonderful way. A lot of women get that a lot, that a lot of women say that they can't, or even men, if they don't have porn or something to think about, it's very hard to start self-pleasuring, because usually we self-pleasure or masturbate when we have a fantasy. We're like, shit, I saw this guy today, or saw the sexy scene in Sexy Life, or whatever you call Sex and Life, this Netflix thing. I saw this and I have to just, kind of get rid of it. So two things. One, it's not necessarily, it's not the only way to get into self-pleasuring. You can really work with your breath. And it actually it's a mechanism to turn yourself on. When you work with your breath and with sound, you actually turn yourself on. And it's a way to get out of your head and get into your body. Second thing, I think when you're talking about the whole idea of porn and being in your head, and this whole idea, it's actually a wonderful, wonderful way. When you start to do self-pleasuring, it's okay to be in a place that you're just wondering. You're trying something, you're experimenting, and slowly you can phase out the thoughts. It's a process as well.
So that's a beautiful part of us. The fantasies are a wonderful part of who we are. And they give us so much. And there's so much learning about ourselves in our fantasies. And beyond that, they're just sometimes fucking wonderfully exciting.
Yeah.
That's all full stop. But again, that's not all. And if we always need the fantasy, and I was talking to a guy the other day in a session, and he was talking about his playbook.
Okay, that can mean a lot of things.
It can, but in this context, and so many people have it, because it's simply, I go through my list of fantasies and I see what's going to turn me on today. And sometimes they don't work so well. So the whole thing really then is, it's not all that there is.
Yeah.
And there are so many other ways to arouse ourselves. And when it becomes about pleasure, that's when we can actually do that very differently. So there's no judgment on any of the fantasies, but often those are very kind of orgasm-oriented experiences.
And I think that may be something that, I'm wondering, and maybe some of you are wondering, how can you start engaging with your own arousal? So I feel as a woman that many times I literally don't know how to entice the tiger to come out. Like, my head is going, I don't feel sexy. I also haven't been taught. And it still is, after years, about 8 years of the journey, I still find that when you start an experience, you want to start touching, let's say it's touching yourself in self-pleasure. What would you say the most important element, basic element, to be the starting point that can really help to get into, to be immersed into that?
Breathe. Breathe.
Be warm.
Breathe into your body, move your body. Let your body.
That's a big one. Move your body.
And let your body move. Let it come from your breath. Let the movement come. Maybe it starts in the genitals. Maybe it starts in your feet. Maybe it starts in your heart. When you're doing that, you're starting to engage more, because breath brings you into presence.
So movement of contraction or maybe dance first?
Yeah,
or
dancing is a fabulous way to build up energy before self-pleasuring. And even if you think about this sensual hands dancing, even if you did that, like while your whole body was moving, put some music on and let that be kind of a whole body movement, that it's a dance, and wherever your hand flows and touches, that's where you're going. So it becomes such a different experience.
Okay, what another entry point or basic element?
So movement, breath,
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
Just simply sound. Start. What is the sound that your genitals want to make? What is the sound that your heart wants to make? So you've got to be quiet. You've got to be still for a few minutes. Let all the kind of mind chatter start kind of just going down, because your mind is going to start thinking, oh, my cock wants to growl. Maybe not. Maybe he wants to just kind of go,
just being inside of relief and joy.
That's it. So that can be really...
And it's a vulnerable space, so it can happen, maybe the tears will come up, and it might happen that...
And that's part of the healing, the release.
It's not, we're so conditioned to think that if we feel sad or emotional, vulnerable, it's not, what's the connection to pleasure, supposed to be pleasured right now. Why do I need all these unnecessary emotions? They're crucial. They're part of the wholesome you. They have to be there, actually, sometimes.
And one of the things this journey teaches us is the acceptance of all that we are.
That's good.
So when you really go into some of your fantasies, for example, some of those can be very challenging. Oh, that can't turn me on. What does that say about me? And through that, we come to accept more of ourselves. When our bodies can feel beautiful being touched, it doesn't matter so much what they look like. Because that's an external judgment anyway. So much starts to change for that. I want to talk a little bit just before we run out of time, because what you brought up is really important, self-pleasuring with your partner.
Okay.
So firstly, in a relationship, should you self-pleasure? Of course you should, because you're a sexual and sensual being in your own right. And often that doesn't have anything really to do with your partner. Your sexuality is yours.
Oh, even more than that, it's a beautiful, energetic process that the more you're also going to bring more energy from within, and you'll have more to share.
Yeah.
Right.
So self-pleasuring, there's some beautiful things that you can do with a partner. And some of them are incredibly vulnerable and emotional. But those are the things that create intimacy.
And a lot of people don't want to masturbate or self-pleasure with their partner because it's
such a private thing.
It's a private thing, and now I need to take care of him, or now I need to please her, or whatever the case may be.
So creating the boundaries for an experience like that becomes really important. So to say, if I'm going to do this, then tonight, I would like you just to sit and watch. Not to say anything, not to touch me, not to do anything. And afterwards, if I want to be held, I'll ask you. Or at the end of the experience, you can ask me, what would you like? Do you want to be held? Do you want to make love? Do you want some tea? Do you want to watch MasterChef? What do you want to do? And but it's so important.
We don't judge.
It's so important because
it's so important because
somebody told me about this thing, Sexy Life or Sex Life, or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
So last week I was going through Netflix. I couldn't find a thing that I really wanted to watch. This popped up, so I thought, okay, I need to watch an episode of this to see what it is. Okay. You know, when my daughter was a teenager, on one of the TV channels, late on Saturday nights, they used to have this kind of softcore porn.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
It is.
Yeah.
And those things are really great, but they're not real. No. So let's go back to more real stuff, because that you're not going to learn anything useful from that. Entertaining.
I had a point to saying something about that, but I don't remember what it was. Anyway,
we'll get there.
Here's the thing. Here's what's important. Self-pleasuring with a partner, incredible intimacy and incredible vulnerability. And can be an experience of the most amazing emotional release. It can be an experience of the most incredible arousal. So be clear on the boundaries of the experience, on what you want from your partner. That's really huge.
Yeah.
And if your partner is going to watch you, that's fine. If you're going to do it in a way that says, I'm going to watch you, then you're going to watch me, that's absolutely fine. If it's in a way that we're going to do this together, and that can be so beautiful, that we're watching each other and we're touching ourselves at the same time, that can be really, really amazing. And what can make this even deeper is your partner holds you while you self-pleasure.
Yeah, that's what we spoke about.
Yeah, we're talking about it in the week. Just for your partner to hold you. So maybe you're even going to lie back against their chest, for example, and you're going to be touching yourself.
That sounds delicious.
Or maybe you're going to be lying down and they're holding you. However that is for you. And those can be incredible experiences. And we learn a lot about each other that way, because we learn about how we touch ourselves. And nobody's going to touch you the way that you touch yourself.
And I think because we have only a few minutes, I would like to touch on different textures of touch in self-pleasuring, because it's a real opportunity, you know, to actually explore what you like. And that's wonderful to get to know yourself. And it's fine if you never knew, and it's fine if you always touch yourself in a certain way. But now it can be a time for a change. And that's exactly what we're talking about, in authenticity and being in the present and getting to know yourself again. And, I hear you, John, to speak a lot about new things you're learning about yourself. And I feel like that really keeps you young. It keeps you present, keeps you in you and in connection with yourself. So I felt like when you were teaching us to touch in different rhythms, that was amazing. That created a lot of senses, a sensation of arousal. And lubrication, that's something that I think you need to give 2 words on this basic warmth and lubrication, all that, these things. And without that, it's very hard to bring pleasure to the surface.
Okay, so a few things about that. Any experience that you're going to have, be warm. And I can't emphasize this enough.
But not like warm.
It's such a simple thing. I've walked out of places that I've gone to for a massage because they haven't been warm enough. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to lie there cold, then there's no point. So if you're doing this as making love with yourself, be warm. It is vital, because you can't be present if you're not warm, and you can't relax if you're not warm.
That applies on sex as well.
Absolutely. Lube? Yes, lots. Those are the 2 words. You said 2 words.
I can't emphasize it enough. I think but it's much more, okay, it's important because pleasure does emerge when it's lubed. Even if it's oil on your body, when you just glide on your hand, just take your hand and glide it on your arm. It's lovely, it's nice. But if you put just a nice lubricant or a nice coconut oil, odorless coconut oil, which washes away from your sheets, by the way. So it's just a whole different sensation. The body recepts it differently. So if you don't like any kind of oil and stuff, a water-based lubricant, anything. But it's really important. The touch becomes completely different on your genitals.
So when you say different textures and different ways of touching, so rhythm is really important. Okay. So rhythm can be slow, it can be quick, and you can vary all of those different things. But then think about pressure. So if you're going to just stroke your arm like that, that's one way of doing it. You could do that.
So it's a very different thing.
That's much firmer. You could do that really quickly, and you could see, what do I feel when I do it really quickly? You could get a little bit deeper into that. So that's almost like a scratch. You could do that with your skin. You could do some
tapping / smacking.
And you could do mixtures of those. If I do that, then I do that, how does it feel? Or if I do this first and then I do that, what happens? So it becomes this amazing exploration.
And what you said there, so actually between the first touch or one texture to the next or rhythm, hold. So that's something that it's the sensuality, it's the pleasure between the thrusts and between the movements. And that you speak about that a lot, about really a lot is happening between the doing.
So take a moment in that, take a really deep breath in and see what emerges. I need to put you on the spot. I've just decided.
Go first.
But you know you can always say that too.
Okay, go first.
The one thing that talking about this tonight has inspired me, I think we need to do, we've been talking about doing a course together.
Yeah.
I think this would be such a cool topic for us to create a course.
Yes. You put me on the spot, of course.
So,
then
watch out for our self-pleasuring course.
We have a photographer.
Yes. We've got a boss, a producer, a director, and everything.
And a
most
person,
wonderful everything.
And a person that speaks a lot.
Okay. So we're going to end the recording in a moment, and then we're going to take questions and talk to everybody, answer any questions. So firstly, thank you all for sharing with us. It's really beautiful, and it's so special to be able to have the opportunity to share with you, and I'm really grateful for that, so thank you. And to share with you is, I just love the space, and it's really inspiring for me to do that. Thank you. And I'm really emotional about that tonight, so thank you.